Are we live?
We are live.
Okay, thank you. So I will use the virtual gavel and call us to order at 5:33 p.m. Alessandra, can you do roll call, please?
Absolutely. Mrs. Cantwell?
Here.
Mr. Flanders, you said was not in?
I do not see him. John, are you
Okay.
there? Not here yet.
Mrs. Kelleher?
Here.
Mrs. Lamberson?
Here.
Mr. Matrullo?
Here?
Mr. Menendez?
Lou, if you can hear me, can you unmute yourself just to announce your presence?
Okay, I apologize. Yes, I am here.
Mrs. Morley?
Here.
Mrs. Post?
Here.
And you said Mrs. Russ will be absent.
Correct. She may join us later, but not
Okay.
likely.
Dr. Macri?
I'm here, Alessandra.
Mrs. Bennington?
I'm here.
Mrs. Burke?
I'm here.
Mr. Butwell?
Here.
Ms. Cochiola?
Here.
Mrs. DeFiore?
I'm here.
Mrs. DeMauro?
I'm here.
Mrs. DeTuno?
I'm here.
Mr. Cuckle?
Here.
Mrs. Lynch?
I'm here.
Mr. Latwinzik?
Present.
Dr. McLean?
Present.
Ms. Maher?
Here.
Mrs. O'Leary?
Here.
Mrs. Weiskell? Hunter Voice?
Here.
Devin Riggio?
Here.
Is there any town council or representatives? Okay, Mr. Matrullo, I think we're good.
Great, thank you. Before we move on, I did want to just mention that Lou Menendez was voted on to the Board of Ed by the Town Council. He is taking the place of Mike Camilleri following his resignation. So I want to welcome Lou to the board. Lou, if you want to say hello and introduce yourself, please feel free.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, I was appointed. Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to meet all of you. Some of you already know that are on the call. I am been in Cromwell for 21 years. Moved here in '99. Both of my kids went through the Cromwell school system. One just graduated. My second one just graduated. Going to college next year. My older one was graduated a couple years back. She's going to be now going into her senior year at University of Connecticut in the music education program. She studied under one of your colleagues there, Mr. Sinclair, great man. My wife Gladys, a school teacher. I have a little bit of insight to the daily grinds of being in the education business. It's been a teacher for over 20 years and in the New Britain district, I think about 27 years now. And myself, my main day-to-day, I work as a Connecticut State Marshal now for about 16 years. I also an entrepreneur. I started a company in January, an energy and comprehensive environmental safety and energy company. So there's going to be a lot of stuff happening over the next few months that a lot of school systems are going to hear about. That is going to be quite interesting and very exciting. And that's pretty much it. I do sit on the board now in Hartford on a Latino board called the Spanish American Merchants Association. We're been around for about 30 years. I've been on there for about 15 years. Worked real close with the Hartford legislators and helping merchants survive in the day-to-day grind in the city of Hartford and throughout Connecticut. In 2003 through 2009, I was appointed by, at that time was Representative Bob Ward, the House Minority Leader, to the General Assembly's Latino and Puerto Rican Affairs Commission, where I served as commissioner for 6 years. Served my term and basically been just staying quiet and working until this. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm sure I'll be able to meet you all personally over the next, hopefully over the next year or so. And again, thank you very much for your hospitality.
Thanks, Lou, and certainly welcome. Just so you know, obviously this is not the norm. We prefer to have our meetings in person, but we're doing this through Zoom because of COVID. But if you have any questions at any point during the meeting or in future meetings, if you don't understand something or if there's an acronym you're not sure what it means, please do not hesitate to interrupt because somebody else probably has the same question and it might even be me. So please feel free to let us know if you have any questions, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Okay. Also, I saw Mr. Flanders has joined us. So Alessandra, if we could reflect his presence.
Sorry,
No problem.
limited technical skills.
Join the club. Okay, the next couple of agenda items are just housekeeping. As we all know, Mr. Camilleri has stepped down from the board. He was the board chair. So we, I as the secretary became the acting chair, but I would feel much more comfortable if we had another vote from the board to elect a new chair and a new secretary position. So we will take the election of the board chair first. Is there a motion from anybody on the board who for the election of a new board chair?
I'd like to make the motion to appoint Jeff Matrullo as board chair.
Thank you, Selena. Is there a second?
I'd like to second it.
Ms. Lindsay?
Yes,
you.
second. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, are there any comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. I will continue in this role. Next, we need a motion to elect a secretary of the board. Is there a motion to elect a secretary?
I would like to make a motion to nominate Selena Kelleher for secretary.
Motion from Lindsay, thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Second from Dipti. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. So congratulations, Selena. Okay, the next is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve?
That was from Jen. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries unanimously. On to correspondence. So Dr. Macro, you said you had a couple of letters to read?
I do. I have from the Town of Cromwell Office of the Mayor. It is a letter stating, and it was sent to us to Mr. Camilleri. This is to advise you that the Town Council accepted your resignation from the Board of Education with regret at their meeting that was held on July 8, 2020. I would like to personally thank you for the many hours you spent over years serving the Town of Cromwell. It has been a pleasure working with you and wish you the very best of luck in the future. Sincerely, Enzo Fienza, Mayor. And before I read this letter, I would also like to welcome Mr. Luis Menendez to the Board of Education. So welcome. I'm looking forward to getting to know you. And I'm sure I'll be calling you soon so we can set up a meeting and just have a discussion and get to know each other.
I as well.
So there is a letter as well from the mayor. Dear Mr. Menendez, I am pleased to advise you that at their meeting of July 8th, 2020, the town council appointed you to fill a vacant term on the Board of Education. Your term will expire November 2021. Please contact Town Clerk Joanne Doyle to make arrangements to be sworn in. And then he left a number. Thank you for serving your community in this way. I am looking forward to working with you. Sincerely, Enzo Fienza. So those were two letters, correspondence, and I'm not sure, Jeff, Mr. Petrullo, do you have the letter from Lee Newman?
I do not.
Okay. So we do have a letter from Lee that was written, and Lee is the president of the Education Association of Cromwell. And she just makes sure, she does send to me, I can read it to you. Dear Dr. Macri, it has come to my attention of the Education Association of Cromwell that the Cromwell Board of Education plans to require teachers to return to work and or engage in remote learning for students during the pandemic health crisis due to the COVID-19 situation. As I'm sure you know, the Cromwell Board of Education is obligated to negotiate the impact of substantial changes in working conditions with the Education Association of Cromwell according to section 10-153FE of the Teacher Negotiations Act. Please acknowledge this letter as a demand to bargain the board's plan to have teachers return to work and or engage in a remote learning model. Thank you for your prompt attention to this matter. Sincerely, Lee Newman, President, Education Association of Cromwell. And our counsel, Jessica Ritter, and I have been I also speak to Lee quite often. We acknowledge that we received this letter. Jessica Ritter, our counsel, did respond to Kip Davis, who is part of the CEA, and let them know that the plan at that time still was not officially out, and we are just getting to know and become familiar with the plan, and that we will be in contact with them soon so that we can negotiate the contract, because the working conditions will be changing clearly due to COVID. And I believe that is all I have. I'm not sure, Mr. Matrullo, if you have anything else.
There was just one additional letter from Ms. Lori Fortenbach, and I'll summarize it. Just that she's a proponent of the children returning to school this fall. She's very concerned about the mental health of the children. She asks that we do all we can to get the children back to some normalcy. She offers some suggestions, including splitting up the school so that half the children go in the morning and the other half in the afternoon, skipping lunch, sending home bagged lunch to those in need, and also having half busloads. So, thank you to Ms. Fortenbach for submitting that letter. Alessandra, if we could have all of these posted with the minutes, please.
Hey, Jeff,
Yes, Mr. Flanders.
quick question.
Sure.
The Cromwell Education Association is appropriately represented on the reopening committee, correct?
Dr. Macri?
Yes, we have many teachers. We have Lee Newman, who is our president, and we have many teachers, regular education, special education, preschool, from each building. They are very well represented, not only on the district task force, but on the school task force as well.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because it implied that some of this communication implied that they were going to get a fait accompli and then start negotiating, and that doesn't seem like a productive approach.
No, that is the demand to negotiate went to every single district in Connecticut.
Understood.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, on to the next item, superintendent's updates and responses to BoE comments, actions, items, and public comments from prior meeting. Dr. Macri?
Sure. I noticed we also have reopening school discussion, so I'm going to try not to, because there's so much that's been going on with reopening, so I'll try to save as much of that for later. We do have, like I did say, we have a district task force of about 40 people, and every school has a reopening task force. And everyone has met at least once. We have been meeting. We started off as administration when we really were not sure what was happening. And we started back in April or May, just trying to put our heads together. And then eventually we invited board members, parents, some board members, parents, our administration, teachers, paraprofessionals to join in on the conversation and offer all of their input. So I could talk a little bit more about that later during reopening of schools discussion. The only other thing I believe that I would like to talk about is at the last meeting, I believe it was Mr. Flanders who had asked for the tuition and information, which is reference F. So that page tells you where for 2019, 2020, where our students attended, the schools they attended, how many, the total students, and then our expenditures for each place. Those are just our magnet schools. I believe that was what you had asked for. BoE at Middletown is not a magnet school. If you did want that information, we did have 6 students attend this year, but I can't remember the cost. But the rest of these are only magnet school tuitions and how many students attended each one. And that is, I believe, everything that falls in correspondence. I do have Siri on Siri O'Leary. We decided, as you know, to have a in-person summer school for ESY for extended school year for our students with special needs. First, we wanted to be able to offer this opportunity to our students who struggled the most during the closing of school. And we have, I want to say about approximately 30, but Sari will have the exact number. And it's been going exceptionally well. The kids are doing a great job with wearing their masks, and they're happy to be in school. And if Sari has anything to add that she would like to add, just to let you know, this we were one of the very few districts who decided to do this, and there, as you saw in the news, 2 already have had to close because of someone who has gotten sick. But so far so good, knock on wood, we have been in a good place. So Sarah, if you wanted to just expand upon that, that would be great.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm very, very pleased with how the program is going. We have about 35 students. Most of our little guys are at ECS, and we have about 4 students that attend at the high school level right now. And then the other half, about 30 or so, are either home opted out or doing virtual learning. So the ones that are in school, I just want to piggyback on what Dr. Macri said. It's amazing to see all these little ones walking around with their masks. Most of them came with their own, Mickey Mouse or Paw Patrol or little hearts or polka dots on their masks, and they're keeping them on. And, the ones that we did have some struggles with, we're working with, and, we're doing social stories, some desensitizing. And for the most part, I have to say, I'm very pleased and happy to see that the students are in school, they're engaged in learning. We have many adults that are supporting in the classrooms. Nurse Grandy has been instrumental in helping, with the health and medical process, taking temps in the morning, pretty much got it down pat now with our drop off and pickup procedure. So I'm very pleased and, excited to have these students back, and, hopefully it can continue for the fall.
Thank you. And I really want to take the time to thank Mrs. O'Leary and Dr. McLean and Wendy Dowling and everyone. This was a joint effort to plan this. Most districts decided not to do it and do virtual learning. We chose to allow the in-person option. And it took months to plan, and we had to submit our plan to the State Department of Education and a formal letter. They were very grateful because we were the only district that actually submitted that letter. So very complimentary about our plan from the State Department of Education, and I'm very happy, very pleased with all of the work that everyone has done to make this happen for our kids.
Thank you, Dr. Macri and Siri. Just a question. Obviously, one of the benefits to having the summer school in person is that our students get in-person education and that experience. But I think it also gives us some insight into what challenges we may face as a district when we open schools back up in the fall, assuming we're able to do that. So are you able to glean what some of the challenges have been with the in-person summer school at this point in time so that we can anticipate reacting to them a month or two from now?
That's a great question. And that was absolutely another, it was a very important reason too. We figured we could try this out and see what it would look like. With 35 students and taking temperatures, which we will not be required to do when school starts. That is a pretty big task. We found that a little bit of a challenge, but Nurse Grandy is exceptional. So she has it down pat now. The mask situation, we were concerned, and it's not that every single solitary student is wearing their mask. We constantly are reminding them or helping them, supporting them, but it has gone over better than we believed it to be. However, remember, it's only 2 hours. The hard thing, it's great because everyone's dropping off their students. However, we don't get to really see what it'll look like when you have 300 parents dropping off students and then you still have buses rolling in. So we thought we might be able to see a little bit of that, but we haven't. Sari, do you want to add anything?
Sure. Yeah, we do. And, we have one bus, but it's hard to predict what it'll be like during the school year. The one bus right now only has 5 students. It's a big bus and they're all spread out with a monitor. So it is going well. But again, it's a hard prediction of what it would look like during the school year. And I think the other piece, probably the biggest factor coming back is the transition for all of our students, with and without special needs, and just how to support them. We're coming back in a whole different arena now, mask wearing, to social distancing, to, cleaning procedures and bathroom procedures, or everything's different. So I think that's probably one of the biggest hurdles that as a district, community, we're all going to have to figure out and tackle together, how we could best support our students so they feel comfortable.
Great, thank you. Hunter.
Is there any student representation on any of the reopening committees?
Yes, there is representation on secondary. So Mrs. Cocciola and Ms. DiFiore, if you want to just chime in, but there is representation. We made sure of that. The little ones, not, not so much, but definitely for the middle school and the high school. So if Ms. Cochiola, I believe your student representative is joining next week,
Yes, we'll be joining Thursday, actually. Mhm.
and then Ms. DeFiore.
We've asked, I believe we have 3 students who are going to join us. One has already joined us at our first meeting last week. And then hopefully all 3 will join us again this Thursday.
Thank you. Hunter, anything further?
No, that's it.
Thanks. And just a thanks to Selena Kelleher and John Flanders from the board who are participating in those discussions as well as board reps. Okay, moving on to presentation and reports of administration, 2019-2020 budget update. Dr. Macri or Ms. Burke?
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good, thank you.
So I've put in your packets just a brief memo and then the financial information for the time period ending June 30th. We are obviously still closing out the year and paying invoices for open POs. So I think we have a good handle on that, but always gets some surprises. So what I'm estimating now is that we'll end the year in the $6,000 to $8,000 range, and that money will, excuse me, be returned to the town. However, as in years past, we will make a request that we are able to use that in the 2021 year for something. We're not sure what. It could be additional air conditioning. Last year, we did a small amount that was left over to that project for capital non-recurring, but we really haven't discussed what we would do with that. And obviously that would be brought to the Board of Education before a decision was made. So we did, since this report was done, I have received
Oh, Anne, we don't hear you. I can continue as Anne said, we do. The problem with determining of where and how we would spend the money is that there are so many places that we need to spend the money as far as PPE, staff, air conditioning, and the like of bringing back 2,000 students in a very different learning environment. So we will have that discussion. We are putting in claims for FEMA. Like I told you last time, we only have $148,000 from the CARES Act and only $12,000 that we were provided in addition. So that doesn't go a long way. Like I explained last time, that's 2 teachers. So we're hoping, working with Sal Neshi and Captain Vandersloot, to put in for some of, which I'll talk to you about, some of the expenses that we already have incurred and will continue to incur as I do my building walkthroughs with the Mr. Twinzik, with the building principals, the school head custodians, and the school nurses. And I'm not sure if you're on mute, but we weren't able to hear what you were saying at the end. Or can you talk just to see if we can hear you?
Sure, I apologize for cutting out there at the end.
It's okay, so go ahead.
Yes, but so you summarized it up nicely. We will have discussions as to how we can, what requests we'll make to the Board of Finance for those funds.
Great, thanks, Sam.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Dr. Macri or Ms. Burke? Okay.
I have a question. I have one question. This is Lou. Is there, I know the survey went out to all the parents. I know we received one as well. Have we gotten anything? I haven't seen anything, and I apologize if it's already went out. Have we gotten any consensus yet from the parents as to what the thoughts are in general?
Yeah, we could talk about, we could talk about that right now because that's coming up next on new business. We can get right into that. We have, and Carrie McLean, Dr. McLean is on. I would say, Carrie, about the percentage, what are we thinking about that have responded to the survey? What did we say this morning? I can't even remember.
It depends on the building, but there's a pretty high response rate, and the principals are now getting in touch with families that were not able to respond for whatever reason on the survey, but it's not a large number, and the vast majority of our students are returning, which is great news. You know, we have a handful, 25, I think 30 something in one building. I don't have the numbers in front of me right this second, but
I actually do have them in front of me. I can share. At ECS, right now, we have about 31 students not returning. We have at WIS about 18 children not returning, at CMS 23 not returning, and at CHS 20 not returning. Those are just of everyone that has responded. What's happening next are the school secretaries are making phone calls home. Our poor parents probably think we're hounding them. And it's okay if they say we're not 100% sure yet, because we want to be able to answer some of the questions that they may have as we're having those conversations. And WIS has done that so far, and I believe they only have non-confirmation from about 27 parents, and the rest of the schools are working on that. And they do have the ability to change their minds, you know, at any given time based on health data, based on whatever personal, whatever they would like to do. But so far, we're very pleased with what we have for survey data, and we feel that most of our students will be returning to school.
Thank you, Dr. Macri. Did you want to give a more general update? I know we just led into this because of the question, but if there's more that you wanted to add, please feel free. Otherwise, we'll open it up to questions.
Do you want me to go into reopening of school discussion? And
sure. Yeah, I think let's just move on to that agenda item.
Okay.
And then item A. So please feel free.
Okay, so as you can imagine, between myself and Dr. McLean and the administrators and Ms. O'Leary, all of us have been on Zoom meetings with superintendents, governor, state board of education, commissioner, assistant superintendents, you name it. We've been on phone calls, Zoom meetings, to see what everybody else is doing. This is an incredible, monumental task for all students to return under the conditions that we have been provided. I did send you the 47-page report from the State Department of Education that they worked on with the Department of Health that we have to make sure that we follow and adhere to. So once we got that report, we invited Mr. Salneshi, the health coordinator at the town, to be on our meeting. He's on our task force. He's been extremely helpful. He joins all of our meetings, our district meetings. He's on the health side. I'm on the school, the educational side. We compare stories. Just this morning, we had conflicting information. He immediately got on the phone with the people that he needed to get on the phone with. And we verified some information and clarified some information. So we have been meeting for about 2 hours weekly with the district team. Then the school team goes and probably meets for another 2 hours. And then the school team, so the district has written a skeleton of the district plan as far as all the safety, the operations and such. And has been shared with the school so that they can do the same, and that's exactly what they're doing. I believe it's going really well. We have parent representation. They are very happy to be part of the conversations, and they're happy with where we are thus far, as am I. I have done walkthroughs in every school. like I said, including Mr. Latwinzik, the building administration, the school nurse, and the head custodian have been on the walkthroughs. The schools are putting together plans, and then we are going in and looking for social distancing. And really, we're talking about from the second the student, it's hard enough planning the second a student gets off the bus until they go home. But try doing that with trying to have maximizing social distancing, wearing a mask, talking about mask breaks, how many students can you fit in a classroom. And it's very important for me to tell you about this evening. We are up to close to about $200,000 in expenses that we did not anticipate. And I just see more and more coming our way as we move forward in furniture that is needed. Best practice is to use tables, and I'm very happy to say that Cromwell has moved forward in small group instruction. However, we did get rid of most of the desks with the exception of WIS, who has all their desks in storage. So they're coming back out. There must be maximized space between every student, and they must wear a mask, a facial covering. So right now, we think we're in a good situation as far as ECS borrowing furniture that WIS may not be using because they have their desks in storage. So that is working. However, we could be only be at 50% capacity in our cafeterias for lunch. And we are in good shape because our cafeterias, whoever designed the buildings, built really big cafeterias. We can still only fill them to 50% capacity, but it is important that we have that social distancing aspect. And all four schools are in a good place. The problem is the middle school is our, I would say, our biggest challenge and has been. Everyone's been wonderful on the team, but they have quite a few challenges because of the size of the building, the size of the classrooms, how we need to spread the students out. So we literally have been in every classroom looking at what we can do, how we can borrow from each other before we make any solid purchases. What we did come up with as far as tables in certain areas, if we have to buy tables, which I'm sure we will have to buy furniture, we're trying to not buy desks, but we might have to, depending on space. We would buy the white folding tables that could then be reused in a couple of years. We can always reuse them for events. We do have some in schools, but we definitely do not have enough furniture to make this work. We also need to look at, we're having conversations about whether or not we're going to offer chorus or choir. And that is a big topic throughout the entire state because you have to be, as of now, 12 feet apart. We have a band. So these things are really important to me, to everyone, because our students have been home, they've been isolated. They want to come back and they want to do things that they love to do. And it's, here we are saying, okay, you're coming back to school, you're wearing a mask all day and you have to stick 6 feet apart, 4 to 6 feet apart from each other. I really would like to try to figure out if we were to rent tents or contact people to see if we can get anything donated. We're in the midst of doing that. Yes, that compromises security. However, we do have PE classes going outside. Right now, I think it's important for our kids to have band. And at the middle school, we will have band for as long as the weather is cooperates with us outside. And these are the things that, as I do building walkthroughs and work with the administration, and then they go back and work this out with their team, because this is definitely not a one-person job for sure. We talk about things and then we talk items that we may need. And I'm doing my very best to Tommy and myself are seeing the district, the big picture. So when, like Mr. Butwell says, I don't think I'll be using these, or I remember that Ms. Datuno said, I need this, this, and this. I immediately put Mr. Butwell in contact with Mr. Tuno and what they could borrow from each other. And the same with the middle schools. Furniture is a little difficult with sharing from, elementary to secondary. Clearly, our kids don't fit. But we are doing our very best to limit the expenses. We have ordered all of the Chromebooks and tablets for our students. That order did go in, and you saw that's how we expended some of our funds from the end of the year. We will do our best. Sal Neshi told me to include it. We may be able to get reimbursed through FEMA. We do not know, but we will try at least 75%. It is what it is. We need them. We can't have hybrid learning, or at least remote learning for students who choose to stay home, and then full learning, virtual learning if we have to go back to that in the future without devices that are working and accessible to students. So we are in good place there. I will let Tommy speak, but we absolutely cannot. I would not want my child, even though I don't have any. I try to think, like I always tell you all, about our children as my nieces and nephews. It is incredibly hot in the middle school for our students and our staff. We have been working on replacing air conditioners. We need approximately 18 more. And to me, you cannot wear a mask being 85 to 90 degree. It could get up to 85 degrees, 90 degrees in a classroom. It was hard enough without the masks. So we are looking to make sure that we have air conditioning in the entire middle school, and then everyone will be fully air conditioned through window units, with the exception of WIS and the high school. That is definitely very important for our students with asthma. It's important for every student. They need to be able to breathe, and we all know what it's like to breathe through a mask at this point. We are, and you can ask questions if you want to later about ventilation. We're looking at all of that. Tommy has all of that under control. This is something I would like to run by you. There's a couple things that I would like to run by you. We are not supposed to allow students to share materials, and that is without washing them, without disinfecting them. And we all know there's probably only 2 to 3 minutes between passing. And we are doing our best with cohorting kids, which means trying to keep as many of the same students together, which becomes much more complicated when you're at the secondary level. So I would love to know, Selena was on the phone, Ms. Kelleher is on the task force, and she did, we talked a little bit about it, and I've considering if families and the parents were more than willing, and they think it's a good idea, they're the ones that brought it up, is asking parents for basic supply donations if they can. No student will ever go without, but because we can't share, everyone really is going to need their own everything. It's going to become, very expensive. So that's something I would like for us to talk about, to see how you feel about it. Of course, it's on a donation basis. They don't have to do it. No child ever goes without. Now that we have social workers, we'll be doubly sure that that doesn't happen. But I do believe that we do have parents and families who are more than willing to help, and probably would feel better if they knew that they bought their children's own materials. And we're talking about notebooks and crayons and pencils and pens and such. So we could talk about that a little bit more, just to get a feeling of how you feel. And then another thing that we did just receive information just recently, that the governor has waived the 180 days of school to 177 days to allow, there is a lot of training that teachers, staff members, everyone has to participate in. There is anyway, DCF, sexual harassment, many different trainings that our teachers have to participate every single year. And now we have the COVID training as well. Plus they're walking into a very different space. So my recommendation, along with many other superintendents, something that I would like to discuss with you. Our calendar as of now says that we begin school, teachers come back on August 24th and 25th. That's when we provide professional development. And then our students are slated to come back on August 26th, 27, and 28. I am highly recommending that we reconsider that. And we have our teachers coming back on the 24th. And so that we can provide all of the training that they need to go through, some professional development on social emotional trauma informed instruction, and just situations so that they really can identify students who struggled. We've needed to do that for a very long time. That'll give us that opportunity. And then it's going to give teachers the opportunity that they need to be in their classrooms and figure out how are we going to make this work? Because we are removing specific furniture and materials from teachers' rooms and putting them in pods so that we can maximize the space. So they need to go through their materials and be able to do all of that. And in the past, we have allowed teachers to come in all at once, and then the place has been cleaned and then re-cleaned, but it didn't have to be to the extent of which it will have to be now. So my advice, I strongly am encouraging you to reconsider and having our students come back on September 1st and our teachers coming back on August 24th through the 28th, so we can do all of that. Yes, our students returning to school on September 1st. So that's something I would like for us to discuss as well.
So Dr. Macri, if I could interrupt, please.
Sure.
So you're not changing the return date of teachers, that would stay the 24th. All you're changing is the return date of students, which you're suggesting we change from the 26th to September 1st. Is that correct?
That is correct. And right now, most districts, not all, have 180 days is legislation. You have to have at least 180 days. The governor just waived that to 177 for districts who only go to school for 180. In Cromwell, we're lucky. Our students come to school for 183 days. So if our students did not come to school, we would still be at 180 days. And that would save us some time in the future if, I don't want to say when, but if we need to go back full virtual learning, that would still give us 3 days to play with to provide even more professional development and training for our teachers as they embark on, teaching from home again virtually, which will look different. So I am asking for teachers to start on the day that they are expected to start. And I am asking that the students start on September 1st, which will still put our students at the 180 days. And then we have 3 days that we could play with as needed and if needed during the year based on whatever comes up on what we may need to provide training for so that our students can receive virtual learning.
So Jeff?
Yes.
In order to do that, we need to amend the agenda.
Right.
So I move that we amend the agenda to include new business number H, discussion and possible action on delaying the return of students to school.
Okay, so there's an actual motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Was that from Jen?
Jen, yep.
Thank you. So comments and questions, and I'll open it up. I generally agree with the idea. I was going to suggest something similar. My only concern with amending the agenda and taking action at this time is that we just didn't give the public a chance to see that and comment on it. Is there any?
My understanding is that this is a regular meeting and we are allowed under the Freedom of Information Act to amend our agenda at a regular meeting.
I don't disagree with that. My concern is just taking action. This is something that it would seem to me that parents may want to know about ahead of time, albeit delaying their return to school is probably not as bad as moving the start date up. So I think parents would not have an issue with it. But in the interest of transparency, I think it would be appropriate to have it at a special meeting, unless people are willing to vote on it now. I'm fine with doing that as well. Again, if it were the opposite and we were taking kids were coming back earlier, I would be more in favor of doing it at a separate special meeting. But if it's just a delay, then I'm okay with doing it now. We would just need to obviously have a lot of information go out to the parents about the delay of the start date. That may impact people's work schedules and returning to work there as well. So I just want to be cognizant of that.
No, that makes sense to me. So let me suggest that we amend the agenda, include it, we make a motion, and then we table that and call a special meeting to address just that item.
That works for me. Dr. Macri, are you okay with that?
I'm fine. The only thing, like you said, I want to give family as much information as I possibly can, as quickly as I can.
Right.
And that is what our parents asked this morning. But I hear what you're saying, absolutely. And to be honest with you, it came to my mind, and then I thought, does this have to be an action item? And then I don't know why it completely slipped my mind to ask you, but it did.
No, I think that having a motion on the floor to that effect is certainly going to tell people what we're considering, and the fact that we don't act on it says that we're waiting to listen to hear what they have to say. So my initial motion is simply to add the item to the agenda. I'm happy to expand that to add the item to the agenda, and then no, it should. I think it should be two motions. One, add the item, and then a motion to delay the opening for students.
So say that again, John. The first motion is to add it to the agenda.
Yeah, we can't do anything about it. We can't even, well, we could announce that we're going to have a special meeting to discuss it, but my feeling is adding the item to the agenda allows us to say we're considering it and that we're tabling it.
So the second motion will be a motion to table.
No, the second motion will be a motion to delay, followed by a motion to table. Sorry. Too much time studying Robert's rules.
So the motion to delay
would be second. First we have to amend the agenda so that we can so that a motion to delay would be legal.
And the motion to delay is to delay the consideration of the action that we're considering.
No. So let me go. First motion to amend the agenda to which is what's on the floor right now, which is a motion to amend the agenda to add new business number H, consideration of delay of students returning to school.
Okay.
Once we do that, I'll make a motion that we delay students' return to school till September 1st, and then somebody would make a motion to table that.
Perfect. Okay, John, the floor is yours.
So my motion, you need to get a vote on the motion to add the item to the agenda.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor, which was seconded by Ms. Lamberson.
I hope I'm being somewhat clear.
That makes sense, John. So are there any comments or questions to the motion to amend the agenda to add new business item to consider the delay of the student start date? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the motion carries unanimously.
So,
John,
Mr.
you're
Chairman, I move that the Board of Education amend the calendar so that students will return on September 1st.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor, and if I understand, now we need a motion to table that.
Well,
motion.
we got to get a second on the motion.
Oh, we need a second, sorry. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jen. Now, is there a motion to table? Anna's motion?
I move to table the question.
Thank you, John. Is there a second to John's motion to table?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lori. Are there any comments or questions on the motion to table?
I have a quick comment, Jeff. It's Selena.
Yes, please.
Can we just make sure that special, are we able to make sure that that special meeting is really soon?
I would advocate for that, yes. I would say within the next week, if that's possible, maybe we can, the board members, I'll take a poll after this meeting about availability and get something on the calendar.
Okay,
Can I-
thanks.
Can I suggest we wait at least a week so that the news can get disseminated? I mean, you know, at least a few days. Wait until the beginning of next week.
And the minutes from this meeting can come out as well, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fully support that, so I would say within a week to 10 days at max. Okay, so there are no further comments or questions to the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. So thank you, Dr. Macri. Just a question. Your overview has focused on the physical aspects of the reopening.
Yes.
Can you just go into curriculum development and what we're doing there?
Sure. We're about to get there. I have one more thing and then we'll get into curriculum. If you don't, I just want to make sure you're informed of all aspects, because really there are three parts of this wonderful plan. And I'm saying that just because it's due so soon to the state. One last thing, as far as a lot of parents have asked, and I'd like to have this go on record, and for the parents who are listening, people, and I completely understand, I have received emails from parents, some with about 10 questions each, very concerned. So for example, if a teacher tests positive for COVID-19, are they required to quarantine? How long? If a child is test positive, what will happen? When will students be able to return to the classroom? How will all of that is still being discussed at the state level with all of the health department specialists. And Sal Neshi represents the town of Cromwell. There isn't going to be a perfect answer, but before any decision is made, we all are mandated to have isolation rooms. And this is the part that a lot of parents are not going to be happy. And I completely understand. However, as of now, today, we are being told that any child who comes to the nurse's office and complains of a headache or a stomach ache, whether they don't have to have a fever. Of course, if they have a fever, that's even more concerning, but whatever they complain of, they will have to go into we have an isolation room, and parents will be called to come and pick their child up. And then we will have to have documentation on when they can come back to school. This includes, we have students that go to the office for allergies all the time. So we are going to make this clear to parents when we know 100% for sure. But right now, that is where the Department of Health stands on this situation. And then when do we make a decision to either go to a hybrid plan or close school? And what will that look like? Will it look the same in each district? Will it look the same across the state? Will it look the same within the district? There is supposed to be a data matrix that comes out from the Health Department of Public Health. And a conversation has to happen with Sal Neshi, myself, the Department of Public Health about the data. And when we're getting close to whatever they publish, but they haven't published anything yet. And then they're the ones that say, you now have to go to a hybrid plan, or you now have to shut down. And whether or not that's going to be statewide, district-wide, by school, none of that has, none of those questions have been answered for us yet. So that's the last thing that I want you to know. And I want to make sure it's in the minutes, and that parents start to hear this, because as you can imagine, it is very concerning to me. So I can only imagine how concerning it is going to be to parents. But I want them to know as much as possible. And that could change in the future, but as of now, it has not changed. And now we will move on to curriculum and instruction and everything that the curriculum committee has been working on since March. I'll send it over to Dr. McLean.
Hi, everyone. So the curriculum task force has been meeting for quite a while. I think we started meeting back in late April. We have, we've talked about a lot of different scenarios, because ultimately, we're planning for a reopening of schools, but the reality is that we may very well at some point be virtual again, and we need to be ready for that. So the task force is looking at all of those options. There's a lot of professional development that goes into this. Those days will be incredibly helpful, because on top of all of the COVID related professional development, there's a lot of instructional professional development. We have a lot of programs that we are using in anticipation of a virtual learning environment that teachers need training on, assessment practices, relationship building, trauma-informed instruction, social emotional learning. The list goes on. And even, just how to instruct students in a virtual setting, which is entirely different. So we've got our work cut out for us. I have a great, amazing committee that is absolutely committed to, to doing the very best that we can in this situation. We don't, right now, we're hoping that we can get all the kids back. But like I said, we've got our eye on the future, and knowing that we need to be prepared for a virtual setting eventually.
Carrie, can you talk a little bit about what you've done with curriculum compacting and vertical alignment, so that, because obviously we know our students and assessment, what we're planning for assessment, we're trying to be very cognizant of, we don't want our students walking in the door and providing an assessment immediately, because things are going to look so different to them, and I'm worried about their mental health and well-being. But we will be assessing soon after that, but we are going to give them the opportunity to get used to what the new normal is. But Carrie, if you can talk about that.
So in the spring, before we left, we had teachers do some very general formative assessments, and then work in grade level teams to take a look at the curriculum that they missed and identify the most important things. They did some vertical teaming where they talked with other grade levels, so that they were aware of the skills, if there was prerequisite skills or things like that, that the students would be coming to them not having. So we've done that. The teachers have an idea of where they're going to start in the fall. Obviously, when the kids come in, it's really in those first couple of weeks about relationship building, because in order for us to get good engagement from our students, they really have to have relationships with their teacher. So that is going to be our primary task when we return. But at some point, we do have to get a good assessment. I'm sorry, that's my dog. We do have to get a good assessment on them so that we can start and we can differentiate, and we can identify, what kind of a learning loss we are dealing with in this situation. And we won't know that until we really start to assess the students. But we are planning to we are being very, very, very careful about which assessments we are going to give. We talked about that with the curriculum committee. We've already decided there are certain assessments that it's just not really a good idea to give them with our, precious time that we have. We could be using it on instruction. So that's going to be the priority. But there are a handful of assessments that we do need to get in so that the teachers will have an idea of where the students are. So that's where we are right now.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Selena.
I guess, I think what parents are wondering is if we do go back and then, God forbid, we have to go virtual, how will it look different than it did last spring? And do we know that yet?
So Selena, I heard loud and clear from the teachers that they really would like face-to-face time with the students. That's something that's come up from several different teacher groups that I've spoken with. I think, the consensus with the teachers is that it's impossible to plan well when you can't interact with your students and answer their questions, and it's not effective. So there will be, as of right now, I'm anticipating that there will be live instruction happening when we are virtual. We've talked with the high school and the middle school about what those schedules may look like. We're trying to set up the school schedules now so that when and if really we go to virtual, there's not going to be an enormous transition in the times and the schedules that the teachers will be working with the kids. We're going to try to keep things fairly aligned to when we're in school so that if we are going back to back, back and forth, there is talk of, like a 2-week period where we're home and then coming back. We want to try to make these transitions as smooth as possible. So we're trying to align things right from the very beginning.
So thinking back 4 months ago, we're in a different place for a lot of reasons. Obviously, we know, and I've consistently provided you with that information. My message has been the same every time we meet, that we did the absolute best that we could with the resources that we had. I think it's very important, and you can see it on lawn signs from the community, that every child has a working device, which was not always the case. We did the best we could, but even when we tried to order them, we were competing with pretty much the entire nation, world, and trying to get these devices in students' hands. And yes, many of them had devices that were 8 and 9 years old. We are going to be in a different place because we now have spent close to over $200,000 in devices that work, and that will be in the hands of our students. So that's one much better. We're in a much better place just right there. Our students are going to be ready if they had to walk out of the classroom that day and not come back the following day. We will be ready to go as far as what they need to take with them and get started. And our teachers, especially our teachers, they have not had they have had a lot of training, but we still continue to need to provide training in Google Classroom, in some of the programming that we have purchased that is a blended learning component, an individualized learning, artificial intelligence component that all need very intensive training, which we hope to work on. So as far as resources, it's night and day as to where we were in March. Also remembering that we were very reluctant to join Zoom meetings and have that interaction because it was being hacked, or from what we know, not necessarily hacked because they were open meetings. And you all know what happened when we at the Board of Finance meeting, which is what we tried to avoid. And many teachers were very reluctant because of confidentiality of their own homes, confidentiality of students' homes. This gives them an opportunity to figure out what it will look like in their own home, and training on what we're going to be using and how, if something is happening, for example, in a home that they feel that other students don't have the right to see, we can shut down that student for that time. These are all very real things that happen in the lives of we don't live in everybody's home. So we're bringing the classroom into everybody's home, and we're bringing the teacher into everybody's home, and we're bringing the kids into everybody's home, including the teacher. So we have thought a lot about this and what it's going to look like, but we still have a lot to do. And no one is ready a 100% to what this is going to look like. And please remember, this is not just the decision, my decision or Kiri's decision or the facilitator's decision. This is something that must be negotiated with the EAC. And I'm very grateful because in the negotiations, it said that the teachers may, as you read in the MOA, Memo of Understanding, they may join live. And when our students reported to us and our families reported to us, they're really missing each other, and this is having an impact on their mental health. Our teachers did step up to the plate and offer the office hours, which was not part of the MOA. We did not have to go back and negotiate. They did that, and everyone did what they were expected to do according to the virtual learning plan. So that negotiation, that's going to be a negotiating factor as well. But teachers are very, very much aware that it's going to look different. And we are going to, in that demand of negotiations, this is going to be something that we talk, very real about. And that has already happened with myself and Lee. Lee and I have very open and honest conversations. And we know that we can work this out to make it look different and make it much better for our students and our staff. So that is really, there's three parts to understand about this reopening plan. One is everyone comes back and all of the health, everything that's happening with health and all that we have to worry about as far as social distancing and wearing masks and operational things. And then we have the instructional component, which is really important. We're a school and we know it's going to look different. We're going back to a way of teaching that we've worked the last 25 years to break, students sitting in desks. We will have to develop, and I think this is really important, and I think this is what we're probably going to try to call it. So if students choose to stay home from the beginning, or I shouldn't say students, if their parents choose for them to stay home, they're going to have a remote learning opportunity. And what exactly does that look like? Yeah, we don't know that 100% yet. That's what we're working on now. That will look different than our hybrid plan when the state tells us that we have to send half of our students home and we can only occupy half of or 25% of. That is very different of what that's going to look like, because then we have 25 or 50, 75% of our staff that now has to be teaching as well remotely. We don't have the resources to do everything exactly the way we would want to do it in a hybrid plan versus a remote learning plan versus a virtual learning plan, which means everybody goes home, because now everybody is home and the teachers are working from home. And that's something that we have to talk about, and it is very complicated. We have not worked it out at all. Ms. DeMoro is Michelle, HR. Teachers, staff members are contacting her. They're in the process of contacting her and letting us know if they can and cannot return to work. And there are guidelines that they have to follow. Right about now, we have approximately 20 people that we are looking at in all different areas. In a perfect world, how many teachers have to stay home and be accommodated, work from home, and how many students stay home. If that would work out perfectly with numbers, that would be an ideal plan, but we all know that's not the world we live in. So we are going to have, and especially at secondary, the high school, where it's credit bearing. So we have a lot to think about. And there's many different things that are being thrown around in all districts, but we have to do what's best for Cromwell. And there's still a lot of discussions that have to be had about this, but we will put something on paper that we have to submit, and we do submit very generally speaking to the state on July 24th about our hybrid and our virtual learning plan. However, when we articulate it, it's going to be the only constant is flexibility. That is going to be the only constant. We have to constantly reflect, change, make accommodations, adjust and pivot. And this is nothing that I know anyone could possibly, we could predict a little bit, but we don't know. We could think things are going to work out perfectly and they won't. So we need to be able to do that together. So we are in a different place already. I'm very confident in the work that's been happening with the very dedicated facilitators, the curriculum team. I'm confident in our resources that we have as far as technology. Well, they're not here yet. I don't even want to say that because they haven't arrived. It could take a praying. We ordered as soon as we possibly could. And I'm confident that we are able to provide the professional development to our teachers that they will need in order to execute that plan. However, it's going to take resources, and this is, I will be continuously telling you and talking to you, and Ann Burke and I and this happens all the time, where we say, Ann says, Enza, we don't have the money for that. And I said, Ann, we have to open up the schools and we have to find the money for that. There may be a time where we have to go back, and I've talked a little bit about this, if we don't get the reimbursement from FEMA, it becomes, if we don't have the money to do this, we can't open school. And so, for example, if teachers are out because they have a true medical reason to be out, and we cannot accommodate, well, now for at least a certain amount of time, or a paraprofessional or a custodian or whoever, a secretary, we are responsible for paying the person who's in that seat, and we also have to find substitutes, and good luck trying to find a substitute during a pandemic. So we would be looking at trying to fill positions with people who may be a little bit more expensive than our norm. So these are all the realities that we've been wrestling with every moment of the day. And we're going to continue to. And hopefully by the end of the month, we will have a plan that will still be forever changing to share with you. But we will have a one-pager of expectations for students and families, and everything that I had indicated earlier will be provided to families, and that'll give them another opportunity to see if, to ask more questions. And I know it's going to be really difficult to hear, we're not 100% sure, but that is going to happen. A parent did ask me, can you keep my child safe? 100%. I said, I can't make you that promise when we don't have COVID. So I can't make you that promise today. And I wouldn't expect any parent to make that promise to me that their child would be safe in their care, because anything can happen. So I want to be very realistic about everything, but have a positive outlook that I believe the team that we have, our district team, our school teams, our curriculum teams, I am very confident that we're ahead of the game, and we're doing a pretty good job. I'm never going to say we're perfect, because I always feel like there's room for improvement, but we're on a good path.
Thank you, Dr. Macri. Lori?
Yep. Hi. So Dr. Macri, I would like you to address the topic of students on IEPs and those students who receive any kind of services, speech, OT, PT. For those listening, occupational therapy and physical therapy. What steps are being taken to plan to make sure that students are receiving their IEP services? Because as we have discussed outside the Board of Ed meeting, students weren't getting many of their services for therapy, and that's not okay. And that can't happen in the fall. So I'd like to hear what the plans are to make sure that that's not going to happen again.
Right. Per our discussion offline, in this situation, everything that the district said they were going to do, they did to the greatest extent possible in the past. What is that going to look like in the future? I said it to you as well, which is as a reminder that I was one of the 4 superintendents that refused to sign the waiver that said that our students with special needs are going to get every single solitary thing that it was written in their IEP without the greatest extent possible written in there. I never signed it because I knew that it was not possible. And I do believe that I've been transparent about that the entire time. We are looking at, so right now we are in the process of, Sari is working with the principals to find out the students who are returning to school versus the students who are not returning to school, and then looking at caseloads so that we can provide services to our students. What that will look like for the students and for the remote learning component is going to be different than what it'll look like during the hybrid component. To me, and until I have the MOA signed, sealed, and delivered, and I know our teachers are definitely going to agree that we absolutely need more face. They have already expressed that to Carrie during curriculum meetings and to me. There has to be more of that face-to-face time. And how are we going to do that with the resources that we have? Because some, either whether it be speech and language or OT or whatever it be, sometimes it's two students and one teacher. We're really going to have to look at caseloads because that's going to be difficult. We're going to have to do our best to try to provide that one-to-one in-person service to the student through through whatever Zoom or whatever we decide to use. But that face-to-face, it has to happen. It has to happen better than it was happening or wasn't happening. The virtual learning piece is going to be much different than it was. We can't go back and provide the services to our students with special needs the way, not all, but in some situations, the way we were. And I think we have a much better understanding of how we can do that. And already, like I said, we're compiling the list of students who are coming back, who aren't coming back, and what is that going to look like if and when we're all home, or if there's a hybrid of the two. We are looking at all of our students the same, but we are definitely, our students who are our most vulnerable population, we have to take a much better look at and see, what we can do, because we don't want what happened last year. Even though I believe everyone did the best that they could, it can't look that way again. And we're very aware of it, and we're having conversations about what it will look like by looking at caseloads and who's going to be able to provide what services, and how, we may, I spoke with Sari today, we may have to hire some more staff, SLPs if we needed to, so that they can provide that service with our students who are staying home from the very beginning. And that is going to be very costly to the board, but it is the right thing to do. So we're very aware, we're very, we believe that it has to be individualized, it has to be in person. We have to do better.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Jeff, can I ask one more question? This is Lori still.
Yeah, of course, please.
Okay. Just staying on the same, you had mentioned about the cohorts, and I know I've been reading a lot about that, and I know you might not even have the answer to this right now, but it's in my head, so I just want to put it out there. Cohorts is a scary thing for parents of students with disabilities. I just want to make sure we're all thinking, we want, if you're going to have students with, staying with the same group all day, I know that's going to look different in the different schools. I know for the younger grades, it's probably easier because they're all with the same group most of the day anyway. But as they get older into the middle school and high school, they're moving around more and going all over the building. So I just want to make sure that this is people are being aware of this. We don't want the students with disabilities being segregated and isolated, keeping them all together. And I just want to make sure that people are thinking about that. Like, how are we going to make sure they're fully included? That's all. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yep. No, you're 100%. So cohorting, I'm like, I used to love that word. It has become my nemesis because no matter what we do, there's no way, and even at the elementary level, there is no way that our students are not, we do as much pushing as we can, but there are times that specific students at certain times need that one-to-one, and they need to be pulled from class. And we are going to continue to do that because it's the right thing to do. We have masks, we have shields, face shields, for those times, but exactly what we all said, it's not like I'm putting all students with special needs in one group and they're going to travel together. That is not going to happen. And it is, we're doing block scheduling, which pretty much keeps kids together for the most part 90 minutes at a time. So it's less of mixing of students. But when students are pulled for resource or something, the cohorting, it is scary. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm worried about, we're always going to be worried about it because they are going to mix, but it's very important that they do mix because LES, or at least restrictive LRE, is our number 1 goal. So we are looking at safety precautions, making sure we can limit how much students are interchanged, but I will be 100% honest with you, and the plan, it says it's strongly recommended for the middle school, and we're doing okay, but not great. And at the high school, it's recommended, but they did not make that a big one because it's almost impossible with credit bearing courses. And no, we are very cognizant, Dr. McLean, myself, and Ms. O'Leary and the principals, we're all very cognizant of making sure that LRE is definitely being followed. So we are taking a chance, but we have to. It's the right thing to do morally and ethically, and we will do our best with the safety piece, but students will not be, they're not going to be isolated.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Selena?
I just want to go back quickly. I know that for transportation, they now say the buses can be 100% full.
I'm sorry, did I laugh out loud? Yes, this is true.
So I just feel like that's a breeding ground and it's something we can control. I know it's not the biggest fire in your face right now because we have so many other things to cover, but I wondered, at one point it suggested, if parents could drop off in intervals in the morning. I think it's what, 8:30 that you're allowed to drop off. I forget the times, but whatever it is, if they could be dropped off, 10 minutes earlier, 20 minutes earlier, then you could greatly reduce the bus loads. I just wondered if that's something that's just not feasible, or are you still considering that? Because 80 kids on a bus wearing masks is, I don't see how that's not going to spread germs because.
Oh, Selena, we're losing you.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Shoot, can you hear me now, Enza?
I can hear you. I think we lost Dr. Macri, actually.
I'm hearing you fine.
I got lost. So I'm back, but I'm sorry, Selena. I heard the first part about the transportation piece, but if you don't mind, I got cut off, so I didn't hear everything.
Oh, sure. Just basically, I wondered if initially we were wondering if parents would be apt to drop off if they were asked to, if we made it easier for them. So if we could have said there was a bigger window of time to drop off, I wondered if that was something you're still thinking about, because the spread of germs on a bus with 80 students on it it's going to be, I feel like that's where it's probably going to transmit the easiest.
You're right, and we've thought about that, and we do have, we asked that question in the survey, and many parents are going to be dropping students off. And so that's part of the schools team to figure out how we're going to make that work. And in the past, so it's so twofold and it's so complicated because if we drop off, we have a larger window of dropping off, then we have to put students in one large space. And then now you have too many students in one place and they're not 6 feet apart. We want the kids to be able to get out of the car, give them their pump of Purell and walk directly to their classroom so that we can control how many kids are walking in at once. If they drop off and we bring kids in before the actual school day starts, then they're sitting in a holding place where now we need coverage to watch the students because we are bound by a contract, the teacher's workday, when it starts, when it stops. And also, so that is definitely a dilemma. So we're not going to, we have to look at each school individually and see how students can be dropped off. We may have to change the way the drop off is because we have to make that work and coincide with contractual obligations as well. And also crowd control, social distancing obligations as far as, where do we put kids while we're waiting for them to go to the classroom? Because a teacher can't be in their classroom and then be on duty at the same time. We only have a certain amount of hands, even though it sounds great, but then when you get to the logistics, it's a little bit of a nightmare. But we are going to continue to have those conversations at the school teams and work on that. And it may look a little different at every school. We also talked to, now I lost my train of thought. So for example, the middle school is a perfect example. Parents have in the past been able to drop students off at 7 o'clock, a little bit earlier. That is not going to be allowed anymore because we cannot put all those kids in the cafeteria at the same time. So we don't want to be unfair. We have to either do it for everybody or do it for nobody. And we can't do it for anybody because we will not be in compliance with the social distancing. So the school hours truly will be 7:30. The high school is a little bit different because they come in for special help in the morning. Teachers meet them at the door and they're older. And it is a little different at the high school, but grades K through 8, pre-K through 8 will, I think pre-K through 5 has always been fine because Kids Corner and such. It's the middle school where we're going to see a change. And so we have to continue to discuss that, Selena, at our meetings.
I didn't realize that the students couldn't just go directly to class because there might not be a teacher there for them.
No,
Okay.
I know. And those are, we have to look like, for example, when we, the demand to negotiate, these are things that we're going to be looking at. But to be quite honest with you, being, I was a teacher for 14 years and 13, student teaching, I guess, didn't count. Everything you're trying to do before the student enters the classroom, we do have to really follow the contracts, the rules, and I like rules, and we do well when we follow them. And but I know our teachers are going to, they're going to do the best they can to help in certain situations. But I can't see students trickling in for about a half hour to 45 minutes before the teacher's actual school day. And then if we do it after, we're impeding on instructional time. So we really have to look at what we're going to do in that respect. And then when it's warmer, it is a little bit different because we can have students outside, but we really have to think that through because we still have to make sure they're social distancing. Mm-hmm. So all this is flowing through our brains, but we'll get there. We'll come up with something.
Thank you. And then one more question, if I could, about materials. You had mentioned it'd be helpful if parents could provide materials for students. I'm just wondering, obviously that's school specific, but I think in one of our committees, someone mentioned the sooner the better if we could get a supply list out. So I'm wondering, what do we already have? I know like ECS, I think probably already ordered for the start of the year. So how can we make that happen? And maybe we should talk about if that's even allowable. Do we need to discuss it as a board?
I would love to hear from the board. I've worked in 3 different school districts. There's different perspectives, and there's different perspectives on the board, within the board, and the way people feel. And I understand all of it. I understand that parents are taxpayers and they pay taxes for the school system. So we should have what our students need. We do order in bulk, and we do share a lot of resources. We're not, materials. We're not allowed to share. You can't share pencil with your friend next door. You can't share crayons with your friends anymore. They can't be put in, preschool. They're put in a bucket and everybody shares. That can't happen. And that has saved us money over the past. Our schools have put in some orders, but if we can get parents to help and we could send out a donation list in light of COVID, if everyone on the board is feeling comfortable with that, and it would say very specifically on the letter, this is only if you can afford it. And, if your child does not have these materials, we absolutely will provide them to your child. If we could do that, I think that would be really helpful, because we are spending so much money on PPE and making sure that we can open school, that if parents could and they want to help out, it would be greatly appreciated. But I don't know how the board feels about that.
This is Jeff. I think in this community, you'd find overwhelming support for that. So I am in favor of it.
Okay, is there anyone that it doesn't feel comfortable that would like to speak? And like I said, it'll be voluntary. I just want to make sure that you are okay with it before we send anything out. And we would be doing that. So we would have our teachers do that soon. Our principals.
Enza?
Yes.
Hi, it's Lindsay.
Hi, Lindsay.
I just wanted to say, hi, I'm absolutely in favor of it. And I think you'd get a lot of parents that would even donate extra to help those families that are in need. I'm sure a lot of families are in need now because of the current COVID situation and, not being in work. But as long as you make sure that everybody knows that it's optional and not, we'll take care of the kids that can't afford it, I think it's a fine idea.
Absolutely. That
If there's
is
anybody on the
exactly.
board that has a reservation about that, feel free to email me offline.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. That's greatly appreciated. I think I've updated you as much as I possibly could. If there's any questions for me or our team, our administrators, regarding anything that I just talked about, please feel free to ask.
Dr. Mack, we have a question. This is Lou.
Hey, Lou, I'm sorry, it's Jeff.
Jeff.
I'm just gonna call on people in order that I see their hands raised. It's okay with you?
Yeah, no problem. I didn't see that, if you saw that hand raised.
Yes,
Thank you.
I did. Thank you so much. No problem. Lori, I see your hand is still raised. Were you all set, or is that a leftover from when you had your prior questions? Okay, her hand is down. Dipti, I believe you were next, so feel free.
Hi, Enza.
Hi, Tipti.
Hi. My question is about the specials, art, music, gym. Will those teachers go into the classroom, or will the students travel from their classroom to those rooms? And in between cohorts, will they get, is there an expectation that those rooms get cleaned, or just curious how that's going to work?
That's an excellent question. We've been talking about that for the last 2 weeks. So it's going to be a combination of both, depending. So I feel so badly for the middle school. They're wonderful and everybody's wonderful there, except for the building is just not conducive to COVID-19. We believe that at the middle school and the high school level, we will be able to make it work with the size of the rooms where the students will be able to travel to their specials so
Okay.
that teachers don't have to be on a cart. However, what will happen, so we're thinking about how to clean. So we always, there's been 3 or 4 different ways, and we're getting prices. There are these special wipes. We all share this information with each other, where there's soap, and soap does kill. Soap, and I forget what else is in the product. The virus. So if each student was to get this towelette, if we could get our hands on them, they would clean down, the class would end, they would clean down their desk, they would wash their hands, and they'd move on. And then the next student would come in and their desk would be cleaned and ready for them to go. And then they had just washed their hands from doing it in the prior class. That's one thing that we're really trying to see if we can do at the secondary level and specials, because it has to happen at the secondary level every time they move classrooms, and for specials as well. If we can't afford that or get our hands on that product, we've talked about a few other different ways that we can do things, but we like that idea the best. So we're looking into that, but we have a few other backup plans as well. But every desk must be sanitized when a student is leaving and another student is coming in. Every table, every surface area, all materials, whatever is shared, everything must be before another student is using it. So to answer your question, yes, and how that looks will look a little different at every school, but it'll be part of the school's plan. And then specials. Oh, at the elementary level, we may, in some cases, be able to have specials in the teacher's classroom, and then in others, we may not, because of the size of the room and the size of the classes. There's not enough room for the social distancing piece. So the teacher may have to travel on a cart. Like I said, we're doing our best to not do that, but that may have to happen in some schools with some special areas. And the principal will be in contact with the teacher to have those conversations. But in elementary school, they, they'll be sitting at their own desk the entire time. And if we could figure out, because I'm looking at these desk shields that cost a fortune, if we could figure out how to wear a mask and a desk shield so that at least we can have 2 kids in a reading group or 3 with the social distancing piece with the shield. You don't have to be the 6 feet apart because you have the shield and the mask and everything else you could dream of. Then those areas will be wiped down by those students before they leave to go back to their seats. So we've thought of all of that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Dipti. Lou?
Hi, Dr. Macri. Couple of questions, and you may or may not have the answer to, but something just to think about. Number one is going back to some of the questions with drop off with the students. And I know that's always been an issue with traffic and such. On the survey that was done, do you have the numbers as to what the increase, projected increase is going to be for students dropping off? Is that going to increase by a substantial amount?
Yes.
So that would obviously bring a traffic concern into it. And how
yes.
I think that's what you were referring to earlier as to how to deal with those, whether it's a traffic pattern around the school or such, and then times to drop off, increased times and such. And that's something that we're looking at. And I'm sure the parents will let it be. I know dropping off for many years, sometimes it got very, very busy.
Yeah, on a regular, regular drop off at the high school, and a lot of our schools is busy. So you're absolutely right. How do we, because we want our parents to drop off because it's going to be safer than having all the students on the bus in that close proximity. But at the same time, how do we manage traffic? We have 2 SROs. We don't have 4, so we can't have one at every school, with helping with traffic. So we're going to have some staff on traffic duty. What is that, what is that going to look like? All of that, you're right, Mr. Menendez, has to be flushed out. And it's going to, I never want to anticipate the worst, because I just look at everything as a learning experience. September 1st, September 2nd, September 3rd, we're going to just learn, wow, this isn't working. We planned this, we thought it would work. It is not working. We have to really think of another plan. We'll have our school teams constantly assessing it and reassessing it until we get it right. But you're absolutely right. I'm concerned about what you're saying as well. All of us are.
Yeah. Any, if there's going to be a committee put in together to address any of those concerns, obviously I'd be willing to, to partake in that. The second part of the question, as is, and I apologize for ignorance on this, I just don't know, but as a district been able to, or are we able to acquire any state or federal, CDC, FEMA funds for other thoughts outside the box, aside from the normal cleaning and the PPE type equipment, but any other things, any grants or any money from the federal government, whether to do with technology or I know some school districts, in talking to somebody you may know is a doctor of education university. They're looking at certain options with recent technology to help curb the the infection rate and things to do with cleanliness and sanitation, et cetera. There are some options, and I don't know, have we looked into any of that? Has there been any thought on that at all?
Yep, we absolutely have. There are 3 different grants that we qualify for right now, and then we're always looking for other grants. But under FEMA, we've gone back and forth, and like I said, Mr. Neshi and Captain Vandersloot have been great with submitting things. And so, for example, not only we are submitting through FEMA technology and the resources that we need for technology, because those are considered reimbursable. We are also not just like you said, the PPE, but how did we have to change our instruction, even furniture? This summer, from March through June 30th, our CAF workers were paid hazards pay, and they served breakfast and lunch to the community. We're putting in for those claims as well. And we are going to give it our 100% best of being reimbursed. We think there's a good chance of us being reimbursed. So it doesn't just stop at the, the masks and the cleaning products. It's pretty much everything and anything. Even, for example, one that people wouldn't necessarily think of, but it qualifies. We've had to access our council, Shipman and Goodwin, many times during COVID. So we are putting in for reimbursement for that as well. So like I said, and just correct me, Ann and Carrie, because I want to make sure I get, so we have the CARES Act, which is ESSER, which is basically a Title I grant. And you'll learn all this fancy stuff as you're on the board. That is an obligation grant. So we received $148,000, just to give you an indication. And I use it as my reference point because I worked there for 14 years and they deserve it. It's a needier district, it's a big district, but alliance districts, which we are not, or districts that are in greater need than we are, Middletown received over $2 million and Bridgeport received over $9 million. Cromwell received $148,000. So just to give you an idea, to employ a full-time teacher with benefits, it's close to $100,000. So peanuts, that we're receiving. Then we received another grant, and that was, Ann, what's the name of that one? The $12,000 one? Sorry.
I think it's another subset of the ESSER grant.
Okay, so it's a subset of Title I as well. You're right. So now we're up to $160,000 FEMA, we have put in everything that is COVID related, and we still haven't heard back from our first proposal that we put in, and now that was for March and April, and we haven't received anything yet. They're still looking at it. May and June is being submitted tomorrow, and that's where we're putting in everything that you just said, and we're hoping for the best. There are not many grants that we qualify as a district because most grants are based on need. So right now, Cromwell is at a 16% as of October 1st. Free and reduced, it's based on free and reduced lunch. So, or other levels of poverty. So Cromwell is only at 16%. So most grants won't even, they won't even look at us unless you're at 40%. Some will take a peek at you if you're at 30. We're nowhere close. We do have a greater ELL population, so we try to apply for some of those grants, but we haven't qualified. We haven't received them. We applied for some, Carrie, if you want to talk, two state grants. We weren't accepted because we're not a district as in need, but anything that comes out, we're on it.
Thank you, Dr. Macri.
Sure.
Thank you. Lori, is that your hand raised? Lori?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And so I just had a quick question going back to the calendar, what we talked about earlier. So I was just looking at the August 2020 calendar. So I know we were supposed to start back on the last Wednesday. We always go back the last Wednesday in August, which would be the 26th.
Yes.
So you had talked about adding 3 days or subtracting 3 days from the students and for the teachers to have without the students. So if we gave them Wednesday, the 26th, Thursday, the 27th, and Friday, the 28th, wouldn't that put us back coming to school on Monday, the 31st?
Oh my goodness, hold on, I have this calendar right in front of me. The 31st. Oh yeah, you're right. You are absolutely right. I'm looking at the calendar and I looked at it wrong. Yes, that would be.
I just wanted to make sure 'cause September 1st would be giving, that would be 4 extra days. So I just wanted to make sure I had it.
No, you're right. I'm wrong. Coming back the 31st. So that week, and then our kids would come back the beginning.
And then they'd have, then they'd have a full week, and then we'd have Labor Day weekend.
Yes.
Labor Day weekend is the 6th and the 7th. So, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I had it marked right. So.
No, you're right. Thanks for catching that because I didn't catch it. So definitely, yep, we'd be back.
Okay.
The students would come back that Monday.
And can we just update the minutes, our earlier discussion to reflect that the start date would be the August 31st and not September 1st? Okay, Lori, is that all?
Yes. Hold on. Yes, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lou, your hand is still raised. I just want to make sure you're all set.
I am all set. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else from the board members? Okay. Well, certainly thank you to Dr. Macri and your administration for your hard work on this. So we'll look for a further update on our August 11th meeting.
Yes, and you will get, so the way I'm looking at this is we have to submit a special, we have to submit the plan and then a special document. I will send both of them to the board. They don't have to be approved by the State Department of Education. They can ask us questions if they see that we're not obviously following what they're saying, but we don't have to wait for an approval before we can send it out to the public, which is very important. And then we really hope that by the end of July, we'll have a very good plan in place for the schools. The teachers will know everything we're doing, and then we'll send home, we're thinking of, and they'll eventually all be posted, but they'll still be work in progress because we probably won't have some of these questions answered by then, especially if the health data changes, which I don't even want to think about. but we'll send home a one-sheeter by the end of July, and probably July 31st. That tells parents everything, that they're really going to need to know about masks. And we have 3 teachers working on creating a video of, proper hand washing and what does it look like? And then how do you help your child get used to wearing a mask and start practicing now? And we'll have that video out for families and resources for families. And then a big list of, this is what we have to do in order to come to school. And these are the things that you should expect. And please make sure, all your contact information is updated, because we may need to contact you if your child walks into the nurse's office for such and such. So that one-sheeter, maybe 2 for some schools, depending on how much we have to say, will be sent home by the end of the month. And then as the school plans become complete, we will post them as well, but you will have access to them. The board can always have access. But just remember, they're a work in progress at all times. That's why they're a Google Doc. But the district plan will be signed, sealed, and posted, and it'll have a big sign that says is subject to change every day if needed, as needed.
I know that report you said will be submitted by the 24th. We don't have a regular meeting before then. Is it possible just to get that to the full board before it gets submitted, just to give us a...
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. You guys will, the board will see everything before I send it out. You don't have to vote on it. You just, you have to look at it because you should know about it as well. And we have to just send it in, and it literally will be, it'll be sent, we'll hit send on it as soon as we can. It's a little bit of a monster. We've all been, it takes the entire district to work on it because there's so many different components of it, but you absolutely will see it before we hit send to the state.
Thank you. And I assume that can be amended after it gets submitted. So if...
Absolutely.
Okay, because I just wanted to make sure it's we can do that in case someone reads it later and has a great idea, and we can submit a supplement to the state.
And anything in that state plan is pretty general. Our district plan and our school plans, those are the ones that are going to have the greatest impact on our community. And those are always, like we said, those are going to be a work in progress all the time. As we see things that work and don't work, we're going to have to make changes on the spot. And that we're going to get input from everybody, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you everybody for that discussion. It was very helpful. So moving on to the next agenda item, approval of minutes and motions from the June 9th, 2020 meeting, reference B. So Lou, just as a housekeeping item, our protocol is that if you weren't at the meeting, then you abstain from the vote on approval of those minutes. So
Understood.
So moved.
There's a motion to approve from Mr. Flanders. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, I didn't see who that was.
That was me, Lindsay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? And abstentions?
Here. That's
Abstention from
Lou
Lou.
Menendez. Yeah.
Thank you. Otherwise, the motion passes unanimously. Okay. Next item, approval of the executive session minutes and motions from the June 9th, 2020 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Ms. Cantwell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Selena. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions?
Abstain.
Abstention from Lou. Otherwise, the motion passes unanimously. The next is the approval of the executive session minutes and motions from our May 18th meeting, and I apologize, I missed these when I took over as chair from the last meeting, so this is a couple of meetings ago. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion from Lori. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second from Selena, I believe. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Mention from Lou. Otherwise, the motion passes unanimously. Next item, action stipend approval for 2020, 2021. That's reference E in your packet. Dr. Lafferty, do you want to give
So basically,
I'm sorry, Dr. Macri, one second. I'm sorry. If you're not talking, could you just mute your line? You hear some background noise from someone's computer.
thank you. So what happens at this time of year, and since it's my first time doing it, we bring all the stipend positions for the board to approve, and it's in the teacher, they're in the teacher's contract, so they've already been approved for them to take place when you voted on the teacher's contract. However, I'm bringing forward approval in bits and pieces instead of all at once, because I don't want to, I want to be very open and transparent, and our teachers, the facilitators that are listed here that have been assigned, they've been working, they never stopped working. And we want to obviously make sure that they are paid for the work that they are doing. And these are all of our district facilitator positions that are curricular. Now, we also have clubs and we have athletics, and we don't know exactly what that's going to look like. We still are waiting for we're not waiting for CIAC. They have many meetings. They just haven't made a final decision. And we don't want to approve and hire anyone until we know we're actually going to have athletics and clubs. So I'll be coming back to you with the rest as we get more information for your approval. But these are the academic ones, and we are absolutely, they're already working.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, hearing none. Can I have a motion to approve the stipend approval for the 2020-2021 school year?
So moved.
That was a motion from Selena. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Jen. Any comments, questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item is the magnet school tuition overview that Dr. Macri gave earlier. So since we touched on this, I'm not sure we have any further need to discuss unless there's a comment or question from the board. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item G, informational. This is the human resources personnel activity, reference G in your packet. Are there any questions from the board about this? I'll just ask Dr. Macri, where you have under the vacancies for the teaching positions, could you just provide a general update on status for those if we've identified any candidates? But also, I'm just kind of curious about how interviews are going in the COVID age for these types of vacancies.
Sure. I'm going to refer to Michelle for the lunch and recess aides and the mail courier positions, and then I could talk about the teaching positions. So Michelle, can you, just because I know you're working with the principals and I haven't been involved in that.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So actually, if you go to the next reference, which or the second page, it's a more updated list, the one that's dated July 14, 2020. Right now, we have just hired 2 English teachers, a math teacher, a one-year position for a third grade position at Woodside, and also a school nurse. We are in the process of interviewing for our two social worker positions, and our ESL teacher posting just closed on Friday, July 10th. Basically, it's been a kind of little different for interviews. We've been doing a lot of Zoom meetings, or I should say Zoom interviews. And when there is an opportunity to bring them in, we'll bring them in for that final interview. And then the third interview would be to meet with the superintendent and myself. And they're actually, either signing their contract with us in person or signing their contract online and submitting it to us. But it definitely has been a different experience, and we're trying to make it as easy as possible for everyone involved. The lunch and recess aide, we have one of those positions filled. The other one I have to repost, and the mail courier, that posting will be going up shortly. We're also watching to see what's going to happen in the fall. So we're holding back on some of the positions only because we don't want to post everything. Teaching positions are the most important right now getting filled, but if for some reason something changes and we don't need that position, we're going to hold off.
So the one position I really want to bring your attention to, and Ann Cochiola is also on the phone, and Michelle is here. We have posted the French position. Just you guys tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm confused now. It's 2 times for sure. I don't think we posted a third time. We did have a successful, first of all, we only have 1 to 2 applicants because it is an extreme shortage area. We had a successful candidate and we offered her a contract, and then she received a job in a different town closer to home. So she did not stay with us. So after that, it was posted again, and I believe we didn't get any applicants. And Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
There was actually one internal candidate, but the person, in a nice way, wasn't really qualified for the position. So for many reasons that I don't want to specify, but was not qualified for the position. So we actually just posted that position today as a new position. So
Okay,
it was posted 2 times.
So it has been posted twice. We have not had any success. We're not going to have any success. I hate to say it, because they're picked up very, very quickly, and very few teachers want to teach French at the middle school level. They get picked up by the high schools. And we talked about this, and I know a lot of people were disappointed, except for we really can't afford to wait, because Spanish is also a shortage area. And if we wait too long, there's a chance we may not even have a Spanish teacher. So for this year, that doesn't mean forever, but for this year, we will not be offering French at the middle school. We will only be offering Spanish. And it's truly because there is nothing that we can do about it. Michelle has reached out to universities. There are very few people coming out with these degrees. Last year we held on, I got here, the position was still not filled. It's just very difficult to fill any language. And I'm nervous that if we do what we did last year, we're going to run into the problem of not even finding a Spanish teacher. So we will only be offering Spanish at the middle school this year. That doesn't mean we're never going back, and we will continue to look for French teachers in the future. But for this year, we have exhausted every avenue that we believe that we could find, and we need to move on. It's mid-July, and post for Spanish before we lose that opportunity as well.
Thank you. Selena?
I know I asked earlier this week, but I just wanted to, I don't know if I missed it in your report just now, but we're still having interviews for the social worker positions, I assume, and that position is closed. And I also wondered if I see there's a resignation for a psychologist at the middle school. Are we going to be looking for a new psychologist, or is that something we're not filling?
We are
I-
absolutely filling it, and Sari or Michelle can take that question for.
Yes. We actually posted both of those positions. They closed last Tuesday, and we're in the process of interviewing this week.
Yeah, I can chime in real quick. Hi, everyone. Yeah, we're doing, tomorrow we have social worker interviews, and Thursday we have psychologist interviews. So we'll keep you posted.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, moving on to topics for future agenda and possible action to approve additional topics. I think the only item to add is, again, to the August 11th meeting, an update on the reopening of schools. So if nobody has any other items to add, can I have a motion to approve, to amend, or I should say to add the reopening of schools to the August 11th agenda, please?
So moved.
Hold on, I'm sorry, Jeff. I am sorry to interrupt. It's Enza. We're going to have a special meeting though for the beginning of we're not going to wait until August, correct? You did say you're going to have a special meeting. I remember you saying that. I just want to double check.
Yeah, that's going to be the special meeting
within the next week or so.
Discuss the delay of the student start date. Yes. but
Okay, good. I'm sorry. I just got a little worried for a second.
No, you're correct.
Okay.
I'm
All
going
right. Thank you.
canvass the board members for a date that works, and I'll get back to you on that.
I know I heard you say it, but I just panicked for a second, so I just wanted to hear it again. Thank you.
So there's a motion to add the reopening of schools to the August 11th agenda from Selena. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, I believe that was from Lindsay. Any
Yes.
comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries unanimously. Okay, next, comments, updates, and announcements from board members and administrators. We'll start with administrators. So, Dr. Macri, on your end, anything to add or from your team?
No, I think I've said everything. I'm just, incredibly, I can't believe it's been a year that I've been here. It feels like yesterday and it feels like 20 years. Unexpected first year as a superintendent, a lot of things, you never expect to start as a pandemic, but I'm extremely grateful for everybody's support, all the work the administration has been doing to try to get this school year off the ground, and your support and the support of the parents that are on the task force. We couldn't ask for more support while trying to do something that is very difficult. So I believe the only other thing is we stopped serving meals on June 30th, but we do have a place. Sandra Shaw has reached out to families who we may have been delivering food to or whatever. We are working with families to make sure that are in severe need, that they are being helped. And that is it.
Thank you. Any other administrator? Okay, any board members? Selena, your hand is raised. Do you have something to add?
Oh, no, sorry about that.
Okay. John?
Just, I don't know I don't know what went on before I joined the meeting, but welcome aboard, Lou.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Any other board member? Okay, so we do have a couple of items for executive session. So I'll need a motion to go into executive session, and then Tommy, once we go into executive session, you will kick everybody out except Dr. Macri.
Just Dr. Macri is the only one that's gonna be left in besides the board members?
Correct. And will you stay on, Tommy, because there will be a vote. So will you stay on in order to keep the meeting running or restart the meeting at that point in time?
What'll happen is I will pause the recording, cut off the live stream. I will kick everybody out that needs to be kicked out, and then I will mute my station here. I will leave the room. You'll have to text me when to come back.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing superintendent's evaluation, self-assessment, and possible action regarding human resource director's contract?
Motion.
Motion from Dipti, was that Dipti?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second,
Second
Jen.
from, any comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
One abstention
Is that from
Abstain.
Lou?
from Lou.
Okay. Otherwise, the motion passes unanimously. So we'll take a 5-minute comfort break and reconvene at 7:54. So Tommy, you can cut the feed.